Presented in partnership with Barra Brava Brewing. This is Lumpen FC.
Welcome back. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC. And as always, Barra Brava Brewing is a proud sponsor of Lumpen FC, and you can currently find Barra Brava products at Life on Mars, Mars in Bridgeport, and The Barrel in Pilsen. What we have today is a book review of The Keeper, Soccer, Me, and the Law That Changed Women's Lives by Kelsey Ervik. And I'm just hoping I'm getting the last name correct on there. With me today is not the usual crew. We do have some guests in, and I'll let themselves introduce themselves and how they fell in love with the game. Although most of these people you've already been on the show, but we're gonna have a refresher for everybody out there. Go ahead and start with John.
John Foley. I have been on for the other book clubs. Currently, I am coaching all kinds of youth soccer. Just finished wrapping up earlier today, 5th, 6th grade girls for CPS score. That is a different kind of intensity and lends itself to very much this book in and of itself. I also do a nonprofit. I won't say its name, but it's a nonprofit that handles other youth soccer. Youth soccer in the United States is kind of a hot mess and one of my favorite topics. And CPS doesn't pick up the younger grades. So to get all the basics in for like 3rd and 4th grade, there's a series of nonprofits that kind of pick up the slack where CPS doesn't and get those basic skills down. So I am coaching like 4 days a week, and then on Saturdays I am at the games. But this Saturday actually won't be at the game. I've got a fill-in coach. Shout out to Coach Martinez, who will be covering for me because I will be doing Read and Run Chicago for Independent Bookstore Day this Saturday. So if you're interested in running around like an idiot through the city and doing an independent book crawl, I'll be doing that this Saturday, starting at Bucket of Blood Books at 10 a.m.
They said there's
Nice.
at least 80 independent stores.
No, if you look at the list, Illinois dominates the list. Like, we dwarf New York and California. It's glorious.
Nice. If you want any information on any of the events that we are doing through Barra Brava, BPF, or any of our SG affiliates, hit us up at Barra Brava Brewing Co. on Instagram, as well as 3160 Firm on Instagram. If you want, Drew, if you want to go ahead and plug in also your Instagram.
Sure. It's I'm Drew. I am involved with various soccer projects in Chicago. The website is Almost Inform, and the social media is Almost Inform FC.
Excellent. So you can hit us up there as well for any of the events that we have on. Next, we're going to go to Nicole. Nicole, thank you for coming back. By the way, I appreciate it. I wasn't able to give you the hug even when we came in because just running in. There was no parking out there.
Thanks for having me back.
Oh,
yeah. My involvement spans a lot, so I don't know where to start. But
You do it all.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I wear a lot of hats, and this book maybe explains a little reasons why. But yeah, I work for Chicago House AC as a digital media manager. I'm the VP of the Independent Supporters Council. We represent supporters in North America in various professional and lower level leagues. I host women's pickup through Chicago Women's Soccer, and we're a community, so we do more than just pickup. And then Sirens is the women and femme supporters, or Women Plus group in the Chicago Fire community. I'm also working now, since the last time I was here, for a youth club called FC Stars. They're based out of Park Ridge, so doing digital social media with them.
You're just throwing more on the plate, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything I missed? I appreciate you all having me here. And,
That's absolutely amazing. Thank you.
Talking soccer with you all.
Amazing. Thank you so much for showing up and talking about something that we absolutely need a women's perspective. Like, it's an important...
Unequivocally.
Yeah, absolutely.
No pressure.
Also, Drew, you already told us about Almost Inform. Is there anything else that you would like to add to that as well?
No, just thanks for the opportunity there. Yeah, we could talk a little bit later about maybe some stuff that we got going on with Barra Brava if we have time.
Oh, we will at the end. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of events coming up. Again, follow us on Instagram as well as hit us up on our Gmail. That'll be Lumpen FC radio@gmail.com. If you have any questions or if you want to know anything about the events that are going on, you can ask questions there. You can also go to 3160firm at gmail.com and leave us any questions that you have or any contacts that you'd like to get. We are very community based. So if something that you want to develop soccer, you want to develop soccer culture, or learn about soccer and soccer culture, just hit us up at any of those Instagrams or
Just
emails.
find the community.
Find the community. Go out. Get out there. Yeah,
exactly,
absolutely. Get out there. We're everywhere. The soccer community in Chicago is gigantic. So just walk to your local park.
Yeah. And if you like the conversation tonight, come out on Sunday because we'll be doing the in-person book club on Sunday at Mars. So come out 11 a.m.
Absolutely,
in-person
yeah.
book club.
And maybe get some food from Adrian.
We're gonna do some tastings as well. Barra Brava pop-up tastings. It'll be a fun time on Sunday. What we're talking about today is The Keeper, which is a fantastic book based on what is Title IX, which was let me look it up so I don't get this wrong. Title IX is a landmark 1972 federal civil rights law in the United States that prohibits sex-based discrimination in any education program or activity receiving federal funding. And that is a very, very simple explanation of what it is. It does go deeper than that, which we'll be talking about here in a bit. However, it is from the perspective of an individual who played as a keeper since I'm assuming it was U5s, U8s.
She was talking about the Cardinals. I believe out of Ohio, and
yeah.
like her Cincinnati experience, and having just been in Cincinnati for the Fire game, that was it was fun, kind of going through that and lining up a lot of the history at the museums, being like, oh yeah, this resonates. I get this, but very much her perspective of being that like first generation to benefit from Title IX, and she writes about like not realizing, and her mom being like the OG original like soccer mom. Before there were like soccer moms, before it was like considered a political base or a demographic.
Right.
And one of the things that this book does a really good job of, I think, is looking at identity and kind of looking at the different layers of who you are, especially over time. And she writes about like that realization as she's an adult now, the author being like, oh, my mom had to do all this stuff. And like the very beginning of the book, she talks about she discovers her mom was like the treasurer and like recorded a lot of the notes and that kind of stuff. And she's like, oh, my mom saved all of these programs, all of this stuff that I as a mom would like toss out. And she goes back and she's like, oh man, there's all this. She's like, envisions a treasure chest of all this information, and it's like an Office Depot, like, banker's box. And she's just like, oh yeah, okay. But she's like, it has all those details about like the games and what she did and like newspaper clippings and stuff like that. So it's an interesting look on one person's like soccer playing life going back, because like as and we've all played in this room, you think about like your days when you were younger, and like you have those kind of like hazy nostalgia memories, but you're like, man, I would love to have the clippings from X, Y, and Z, and she's got them, and that's such a great thing, and that she built this book around all that information, those videos. So
The videos,
Yeah,
the videos are big, absolutely.
all the different layers of like identity and who she was and who her mom was. Yeah, I think that's great stuff.
Because it was also the way it all coincided, because it was also that era where you could actually record people. It was affordable for some people to buy a camcorder, and be able to videotape stuff. And now, it wasn't that everyone that could do that at that point, but everybody had that JVC.
And that goes back to like other conversations we've had on the book club about like going back to like Galliano, who she refers to in this, the idea of like who is soccer accessible for, and this was the wave of when it was accessible for girls with Title IX in that generation, and it was like, but like who was it accessible for at that time, and yeah, it raises the question of like who's it accessible for now.
One of the things that she also brings up was the ladies teams in England, how they became more popular than the men's team, especially because the world wars, and how they were making money at the time. And again, it was one of those sacrifice things where hey, we're new to this. It's something that's never been seen before, and even then it was more because of, I guess, that industrial, we work in these corporations and this is what's going on, so we make those teams, which was one of those things where you don't hear about, like when you're, look, I was as a university, the degree that I ended up getting was in kinesiology, but that women's aspect, that women's history was never something that was like just up at the front, like, okay, it was just, granted, I'm a little bit older, so it was still based on basketball history and NFL. Well, I call it NFL, but American football history. So that soccer history wasn't really a thing. But even then, it was the women's aspect on that was completely neglected. And it wasn't, okay, hey, by the way, we now have women's basketball. Okay, class dismissed. I was like, all right. Well. And then Title IX wasn't covered till it was a law class, a sports law class. And that's where I was like, oh, this is super important to the history of sports in the United States. And it's something that you don't see a whole lot, not even on TV. We have the Women's World Cup. We have the women's team that is historically one of the best teams that the United States has ever created. Up there, Dream Team, up there, Dream Team.
Up there against some of their other teams that they created.
Absolutely. And you never hear at the Women's World Cup, oh, by the way, Title IX was super important to the point that we're at right now and why we're here. So it was very interesting to read that aspect in the book, because some of the stuff that I did not know. I had no clue some of the historical stuff that she had put in. And I thought I was a soccer history buff. No, I was wrong. I'm totally wrong. Did you see any perspective, anything new that you saw in the book, Nicole, from the perspective of what Title IX means into the expansion of women's sports?
So I'm about 10 years older than Kelsey, the author. So I think growing up, I didn't realize the importance of Title IX, right? I grew up with the U.S. women's national team existing. So I was 11 years old in 1991. So for me, I was young. So I didn't realize necessarily that there weren't opportunities before that. I did only play for co-ed teams, which was mostly just boys, for my first few years playing soccer in AYSO. And then I moved to like an all-girls team, which was like a big deal. And that was probably around the time I was 10 or 11, right? So the 91 World Cup. So I don't know when I realized the importance of Title IX or what was happening, but I did grow up predominantly with the U.S. women's national team just being very empowering and a focal point of the inspiration for my soccer playing.
Nice. Do you have a favorite player from then?
Yeah, Mia Hamm,
Yeah,
clearly.
Mia
Christine Lilly, and I remember my dad really liked Tisha Venturini. Am I getting her name correct? I always forget. It's not Trisha, it's Tisha.
Tisha,
Yeah, Michelle Akers, of course.
yeah.
Yeah. So those three probably were my three faves.
Very nice. One of the questions that I wanted to ask for the group. Did you know the historical facts that she is? I didn't know who. What was the player? Was it Lily?
For the Sam Kerr girls.
Yeah, I
Sure.
Now this is a quick read, right? I read it literally yesterday in like 2.5 hours or 2 hours plus, but I immediately was like, Google, who is this and what is that and what? Why haven't I? In the time that I've been here, why haven't I not heard about this? And why why didn't you were looking at a time where it's a little bit off topic from Title IX, right? But you had some of your largest capitalists on earth who were capitalists to the core, saw something that was making money. Why they not take advantage of that? And I was like, oh, okay, that it was.
But
it was completely
it
caught me off
offended
guard.
the sensibilities
Exactly.
of the time.
Yeah.
It was like, no, that's not your role. That's not the place.
Right.
So that's why, like, no. That's, yeah. That's why the capitalism didn't step in then, because it violated the boundaries. And you still see that today. There's certain things where capitalism could make a ton of money on certain things, and are like, no, this isn't geared to what we would like to do. This
Right.
isn't geared to how things should be in their mind.
It changes the norm that we're already capitalizing on.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. One of the big things that she did mention was how Sepp Blatter had mentioned uniforms, and then what the uniforms were like in the early ages, in the sense of like, they were basically still playing in dresses in the early ages. And then she mentioned the mascot that she was at Xavier University, where the Xavier University for the women had to have the dress on the mascot. And I thought, I was like, this is, it's something that I never ran into, right? Like, I never even thought of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking back, like, all right, so like there is there's the ladies team, the ladies.
Oh, you like the tennis ball? Yeah,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
I was thinking of that,
Like,
the lady bowls
that's
instead of the
right,
bowls.
That's right. It's so, and it was so strange. I was like, but it's the same.
Same org, same goals, same everything. Yeah.
Except sometimes the money, for sure. But
The money's and that's one of the other things that and what she was talking about, in the sense of it created this space, and it was one of those things where she didn't go too much into the legal aspects of Title IX, but that aspect of where legally you have to create an equal space. So I went to a university that did not have an NCAA men's team, because that was the space created for the equal opportunity, the women's team and the volleyball team. I think the volleyball team there might be an NCAA men's, but those were club teams at that point, because football, of course, Texas, right? Football was king, and that's what they were going to focus on. Basketball was, second, whatever we played. So they created that space. Soccer, okay. Well, we met the qualifications that the law.
We met the standard.
We met the standard. We're done. Now, was there money pushed into it? I didn't really see it. Was the fields they played on what was basically a horse track field, because we did have what were they called?
ponies?
It was a dressage. I believe it was a dressage club, so they would play on that team. On that field. Sorry. And can you imagine playing on a field trampled by horses? Like, I don't know about the equal.
Yeah.
And then the football stadium, though, that's multi-million-dollar, facility, and then the practice fields and so forth. So I thought it was a little strange in that aspect. But again, it wasn't until I took that law class and it was like, oh, that's why it's that way. That's why it's that way. But that's also why it's that bad. And I don't know if she kind of met in this that explanation in the book. Yeah, for the lower ages, there is that. You have the fields, and again, they did talk about how even that group that did have the fields was a certain group. It wasn't every group, which I thought was just super interesting from her perspective, and then the perspective that she learned along the way.
I just think a lot of it was really startling how bad the situation was, and how sometimes how far things have come, and then how far we have to go.
Right.
It's still bad. Sorry.
It is, right? Okay, so what's the perspective is like, what do you see right now that is, because we're not seeing it, and I think that's the issue. It's not, and I'm sure that people talk about it, but we're not seeing it. So tell us,
Sorry.
enlighten us.
Respectfully, it's very interesting to have this conversation right now with three men. I'll speak from my perspective, and as an adult women's soccer player, not in terms of like professional soccer, but right, we're still creating spaces for adult women to play soccer. That's like absurd. Yeah. There's not spaces, like a lot of spaces for certain levels to play, certain age groups. There's not a U.S. Open Cup for women, and the U.S. Open Cup has existed. I don't know how many years.
100 plus.
100 plus, yeah.
Amateur teams are basically college teams for women, and then, yeah, so on and so forth. So, I'm sure I could think of other examples
That's
as
a
we
lot.
keep
No,
talking.
that's a lot. Well, okay, so that's a perfect. The U.S. Open, that's a perfect example. And especially with the administration we have right now that is actually attacking Title IX or using Title IX to attack certain things. What would you think Title IX should expand to help with those situations? Especially like, you're right, you're absolutely right. Because there's times where I will go to a certain soccer field, soccer stadiums, and there's times where there's a schedule. I don't know if they still do that here in Chicago, there's a schedule. And then it's like this, like, the schedules are just, whoa, you get the female players get an hour, 2 hours. Rest of the day is all men, depending on ages. And then you're just slotting in the female game with just those 2 hours. And everyone has to be in those 2 hours. And it's like, well, that's not. How are you expanding the capability of playing time to women?
I just forgot what I was going to say. I don't think of this in terms of like Title IX. I think of just in terms of women or other people creating spaces for women, femme people to play. And it's just giving that space. I don't know. I don't know how, like, for me, it seems like simple. It's just,
Opportunity.
And
Right.
like you guys inviting me on this show. It's right. That's small gesture, because this one small gesture is giving people the opportunity to listen to me talk about my story in this book with you all, and then, yeah, it's just those invitations, and I don't know. Go on from there, and I'll chime in.
well, one thing I want to jump back to that you had mentioned earlier was about your first team was a co-ed team, and then you had your girls team about like 10, and that's exactly what it's still that way today.
Yeah.
It's still like the third and fourth graders I work with, they're co-ed, and then they hit fifth and sixth grade, and then that's where they divide. You know, this is the girls team, this is the boys team. Boys play in the fall, girls play in the spring, and the difference of like what's available, because it's very funny because coaching, a lot of the boys will hang out at the girls' practices, and you have to be very intentional of like, no, go, this is not, because they'll be like, hey, can we jump in, because they're used to that co-ed thing, and you hit that fifth, sixth grade where now it's divided, and they'll be like, hey, can we jump in, can I play goalie, or can I do this, or can I do that? And I learned really quickly coaching, like, no, you cannot, because they tend to overtake the game, and it's like, no, this is their practice. They are learning, and your time was in the fall. Here's a ball. You can go play over there, but we have this field now, and you cannot be here. And part of it is like you said, like creating that space, because the kids that are there, they just want to play. But it's like a lot of times there's a part in the book where Kelsey Urbick talks about high school in regards to noticing each other's bodies, and she's like, I'm noticing their bodies on the field next to us, and then I'm noticing our body, and she has this interesting thing, and working with like 5th and 6th graders, 7th and 8th graders, there's that divide there where some of the kids will be like, oh, I don't want to play because they're watching, and so I was like, no, you guys go over there, go, just take the ball, go over to that other field, go over to that other space. This is their space now. This is their time now. They have my attention. And that's the hard thing is like, because I've learned you have to defend that time and that space, because they will come in and just be like, oh, but we just want to play, or can I just be like a midfielder? And you're like, no, get out.
I just want you to know that still exists when you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s. Is like, right, I host a women's pickup, and whether it's somebody's boyfriend or friend or somebody interested in me or somebody else, they're like, oh, I want to watch. It's not necessarily playing, but it's like, I want to watch, which is, for me, and I'm sure a lot of the other players I play with, kind of a creepy thing. It's, I know that, like, I'm sure it is creepy for some of these men. There is, like, this sexualization of it, but it's also just like, no, this is our space. This is we're creating our own space. And I know I talked about this, I think November, I was on the show with you, and I said we do have our guy friends play goalie with us, but we're pretty selective about who hops in goal with us, and we want to make sure they're respectful and kind of know the game, so they help us be better players, but it builds an allyship. And in terms of creating spaces, I think, right, in terms of like adult soccer, or even, I have an idea, but in adult soccer, right, it's like you start a new men's recreational intermediate level league, and immediately you're going to get like 8 teams signed up for it, right? But like in women's, you have to know you might only start with 4 teams, and 4 teams might be pushing it. You might have to really be recruiting to get women to come out like every week for those games. But once you get 4 teams, then you get 5 teams, and then you get 6 teams, and it takes longer. But so you have to really be committed to it, and if there's money involved, you have to be willing to lose money, and that's the unfortunate side of that. And I think too, right now, with Chicago House, we have these conversations, and I know we had this conversation here before too, is that all the amateur teams, the WPSL, the USLW, UWS, they're all essentially college summer teams, which for me is cool and great. I'm glad these college women have an opportunity to play. They're going to have an opportunity to play anyway because they're college level soccer players. But what about these women who are 24, 25, 28, 31, who are still like really talented players, but there aren't these amateur teams for them to continue their playing, to have these Open Cup games like like the Edgewater and maybe USL 2 teams, USL 1 team, you know.
Well, USL did say they do want to start women's sides as well. So, I mean, hopefully US Open starts realizing that that's actually an avenue that could absolutely move into, and I guess we'll see. Well, you said you had an idea, though, so...
Yeah, no, that was basically it. I would like to see, like, if I'm going back, like, 20 years of my life, not to age myself, but, right, for me, the highest level of soccer I ever played, I was, like, 27 to 29, maybe 30. I would have loved to play on, like, an amateur women's team at that point in my life, but that didn't exist. Recreational women's teams barely existed in Chicago, and that was 20 years ago. So it has grown, so yay, and awesome, and that's the end of this book actually reminds me, like she says, we're all teammates. So I relate to that a lot, because we're all paving our way and like in our own ways. Like myself with like some soccer spaces here in Chicago, and then I also know I've talked about this before, is I played soccer with Emma Hayes when she was the coach of the Red Stars. So I think back, like I have this personal connection with Emma Hayes, blessed. But she's paving the way in one way, and I have this connection, and I've paved my way, like, right, in supporters and more local grassroots stuff. So it's just like, right, we're all connected, and we are all teammates, and we're all crossing paths somehow, and just, I know I'm bouncing around here a little bit. But
no, it's fine. We'll actually continue with that thought as soon as we get back. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC, and we will be right back after this break. If I can get this mouse to work.
Yes, Gomez Peña is back. The Mix Files are back in Lumpen Radio. Now, broadcasting from both San Francisco, Califas, and Mexico City. Acompáñenos.
30-second promo. 30-second promo. 30-second promo.
You've never heard anything like this before. It's Postmodern Talking with Bobby Kahn and DJ LeDuce. Only on WLPN 105.5 FM.
30-second promo.
Buddy gives artists and small manufacturers in Chicago a place to showcase and sell their goods and artworks. Buddy retails to a vast audience of Chicagoans and visitors at the Chicago Cultural Center. Buddy is a shop as local as it gets. Buddy is part of the nonprofit Public Media Institute. Visit hi-buddy.org for more information.
With threats of raids and immigration enforcement in Chicago, know that we all have rights, regardless of immigration status. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse entry to your home without a warrant signed by a judge. You have the right to speak to a lawyer. Do not sign anything you do not understand. The best way to defend our community is by knowing and defending our rights. This public service announcement was brought to you by Lumpen Radio.
You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC, and we are currently covering The Keeper, Soccer, Me, and the Law That Changed Women's Lives by Kelsey Ervik. Again, I hope I'm getting that last name correct. We were just talking about the amount, how with the amount of women that you might be able to get to a setup or to a club or to a basically what might be nightly games. And one of the things that's what has been always brought up and always argued by USFA, Sepp Blatter, FIFA, you name any of the FAs out there, and granted, they're all run by men. One of the main quotes that would be said about the women's game is, well, there's just not enough people or enough women active in the sport, which I always was like, well, I mean, have you looked around? And B, it's not as profitable, which I always thought was the TV rights are the same, right? The ABC, NBC, CBS, and all the ESPN and Telemundo, Televisa, you name them, they're all going to pay money as long as there's eyeballs watching the TV, right? And the Women's World Cup has always been gigantic. I don't know if people... I can only take it from my perspective because I watch women's soccer and I watch women's sports. So if Champions League is on, I'm watching. I'm watching Arsenal's women. I'm watching Lyon. I'm watching Barcelona, who's absolutely amazing right now, and I can't believe I just said that, but their team is just ridiculously good. Is there those eyes though? Am I just one that's rare, or is there actually a population of everyone out there, men included, that are like watching women's?
They will say
soccer,
that the most watched and most important soccer match in the history of the United States was the 1999 women's final when they won,
which was amazing. Yeah.
So there's that. I would say is a pretty good.
We just had
case in point.
We just had the NWSL game in Colorado, I think it was. That was 63,000 people in attendance.
Every time they hold it in a marquee kind of place or stadium, like the Stars sold out at Wrigley and had a massive crowd. They broke the attendance record, and then a year later somebody else broke it, and then Colorado. Yeah. So every time they hold it in like a legitimate marquee stadium, it sells out or breaks records.
So is it one of those things where they just have to start marketing correctly for it? Start marketing the women's game better, or have you seen that it's been okay marketing the way it is? I know that's a weird question, but because from our perspective is I personally don't see the marketing really there.
Yeah, but I mean, part of it is the environment has never been created for it in the first place, and now everybody's kind of playing catch up in regards to going back to what you said before about the capitalism, being like, oh, we can make money off of this. And now they're trying to build the structures and get the systems in place. And a lot of time talking about women's soccer makes me also think of the WNBA and the fact that the Chicago Sky had their players, their stars, playing out at Deerfield and a rec center. Basically that was their practice space, and they've got now they have a massive facility finally about to be finished, I believe. But for years it was oh, you're at this second rate, you're at a community rec center kind of practicing where you share lockers with the public. It's these are professional athletes, are you kidding me? And so part of it is the disrespect that's built into the environment. And just now are they beginning to be no, we need these facilities for everybody. You still hear about EPL teams where, I forget who it was last season, where there was some game and they moved the women out of whatever location. Because
that's Manchester United.
Yeah.
That was Manchester United, one of my saddest moments, So they moved the women's to basically to trailer locker rooms because something occurred with the stadium that they were fixing the men's locker room, so then the men's got the
Was that
women's
'cause
locker room.
the flooding or the water coming in?
I don't think that's
damaged
even on
something?
the greatest hits for what they're
Yeah.
trying to do to that women's team. Honestly, it's
Yeah,
pretty
and
abysmal over
then
there.
the owner also wanted to get rid of the women's team because he saw it as at an
Primarily.
expense, and it was like, yeah, but they actually were winning that season compared to the
And that's the thing about like prioritizing.
Yeah.
And like so, this last summer, I was in London. And I as a depressed Arsenal fan right now, I was out there and I did the museum and the tour and all that. And the ladies, they had just won, you know, and the like the teeny tiny like part of the museum that was dedicated to them like winning. I was just like, oh, there should be more. There should be
That's such a good team. Too.
yeah, there should be so much more. Like we watched it at Mars, and then like 3 months later, I'm there, and they had like a small little like exhibit space, and I was like, okay, for the history of Arsenal, all right.
Not to strike you while you're down, but they've won trophies.
Yes, 100%.
I know, like, in terms of men or anyone supporting the women's game, specifically the pro game, it's like, right, I've supported men's professional soccer since I was a young girl. So, too, there's already this, like, I already support X amount of teams. And so, while I do support women's soccer, clearly, and women's soccer is hugely important to me, I am still drawn to those first teams I've supported because I've had that connection. So I think we still need this time of evolution for the current generation is really taking over and supporting women's pro soccer now. Like, right, people, all the women I play with are like, well, you support the Fire. And I was like, yes, that's who I've given my time to, right? So, and it's not that I like women's soccer less. It's just that I've already have this, like, dedicated passion to supporting a specific team that's unfortunately not a women's team.
Right, yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that's really a big advantage in Europe is that the women's team and the men's team are the same group. So Barcelona's women's team and men's team, you're growing up watching Barcelona, and they have a women's team. You got the jerseys. You're already in that fandom.
Yeah, I'll
So
give,
it's a huge advantage.
I'll definitely give you that because that is one of the differences in the United States. We don't have that. We don't follow a club. We don't we follow a team. Maybe because you were born into it. You know, looking at some of the Steelers fans, some of the Green Bay Packers fans, and so forth. That you're born into, your family has always watched them, and that's why you're from Wisconsin, so that's who you follow. But yeah, the club aspect, that's definitely not there.
And for sure, like we talked about, the European matches out there for the Women's Champions League, those are massive games.
Yeah.
You know?
Now,
But that's massive games is because it's the highest level. So,
Sure.
like, how are we,
Yeah.
like, bringing it to not the highest level? Or I know here, because women's pro soccer has been more of a thing for longer, is that I remember 15, 20 years ago when Red Stars were in WPS, the general manager, whoever at the time, didn't want to be, I casually asked, like, under the Fire, because if there was any cutbacks, it would be the women's team
The
would get
women's team,
cut,
yeah.
right? So
yeah, because
there's
Legitimate.
separation here because of that.
yeah, it's such a different way of running sports completely. The United States is just different than everybody else, which is one of the things that I was going to ask. One of the differences that I see, because I watch a lot of the international stuff and then a lot of the stuff that's going on in Mexico, the women's sports in Mexico they're big. Like Azteca sells out, Chivas sells out, and especially when you're having the tournament and you're getting near the end of the liguillas, the stadiums are packed. So you get Azteca, which holds close to 100,000. It's packed for them against whatever it may be, Monterrey or Chivas and it's like we don't. It's not something because we don't follow the club. We don't follow what we think is ours. That creates a hindrance, I think, professionally. High school, though, you do see a lot of high school. At least you see it now, where a lot of people show up now for the women's soccer games, for the women's basketball games in high school. Whereas before, it wasn't really much of a thing. So I think maybe that aspect of having that it's all ours.
Yeah.
And in the professional side, we had it always seems like at the professional level, which I think is why, this is just my opinion, that MLS did not consider, having women's teams in their clubs, was always because of the monetary aspect. And you're right.
Yeah.
Well, what are we going to cut first? Well, I mean, you're not going to cut the stadium out because, well, we pay for the stadiums. You're not going to cut. So where are you going to start cutting? And yeah, you cut one team or another team. But then I think that would lead us kind of at. I'm just going to throw this out there. Do you think that could put a certain club, let's say MLS had men's and women's, could that put a certain club into having to decide, oh, we're fiscally having an issue, we're going to have to get rid of one of the teams, but the women's team is making more money?
I don't know
All hypotheticals.
I don't know the business side extremely well, but I feel like right now in 2026 that's not as much of an issue anymore. But even 10 years ago, and I don't know how you guys feel about that from like the business financial perspective, but I feel like I could see it 10 years ago being an issue, but I could see it.
I think the room for growth in soccer in America is in the women's game.
Yeah, because one of the things that she was explaining in this book was that after all the men came back from the war, it was still the women's teams that were packing the stadiums, and not as many people were turning up to the men's games. And that's literally why they were like, you know what? I believe they created a law to just be like, no, we're not going to let you play.
And that's
and
another
that
one
law
of the alarming
lasted,
facts, how long that lasted.
what was it? Because what was the quote?
It's like right up till Title IX almost, man.
Yeah, we're not going to. You're not going to play professionally because of.
And they listed all these physical reasons.
It might harm your body.
It's bad for your health. It's bad for reproduction. It's bad for all this other stuff.
I would also just like to give her a big shout out on the way that she's able to express some of these just brutally sort of fairly devastating sort of factoids in this thing. She's an excellent communicator.
That was up until 30 years ago. They
She's
just
English
changed that up
major.
until 30 years ago. It was insane.
She's more than that. I mean, she certainly is an English major, but also I think I would like to mention that the back she talks about the graphic literature field journal that she edits. She's just very talented and great communicator.
Yeah, visually, there's so much that is said in this via just like the images and the idea, like even like just the table of contents. Like this is my second. Going into this was my second read, and the table of contents with all the different jerseys, and going back to that idea of like all the different teams that you've played for, and you've got all these different colors, all these, and it's such a great unique visual for the table of contents.
Okay. Here's where I got my surprise.
Oh, segue.
I have a bag of patches, and a lot of them are kind of from the Ohio area and stuff. So I figured this was the best time to bust it out. They don't have the Cardinals in there.
I was about to say, did you tell me you have a Cardinals patch?
Yeah.
That would be magical if there was a Cardinals in
Which
there.
she had that in the book too, where she had the jacket full of patches of the games they played in, the tournaments they played in, which was absolutely awesome. And I did not. It was also one of the aspects I did not know that at that time. I mean, I was in Texas, and I knew Texas had a great program. I didn't know Ohio had such a strong soccer program.
Massive,
at that
right?
time. Because we very rarely played teams from the Midwest, from this area. We played teams from the East, New York, New Jersey, the Northeast, and we played teams from Florida, the East.
Are you talking about like youth
clubs? Yeah. It was rare that we played anyone in Ohio.
A lot of these are
we
from
played
Ohio.
Some teams from Chicago, but I did not know Ohio had such big programs, which was interesting. I was like, okay, well then why wasn't that part of our?
Have you heard of any of those teams? Is the question.
I didn't look super closely. I respect Kelsey and Ohio, but in general, as a Fire supporter, I hate Ohio. So
Columbus and Cincinnati.
this one's really cool. Metro Milwaukee Kickers. I think the first time I read this, John and I are in another book club, and we discussed this there, and the conversation was actually much different. And I think that time I wrote down a list of words. I don't know if I talked about this in the book, that like when I was reading like that this book like made me think of like specific words, and one of the words I put down is Midwest. So I know like she talks about like outside, like going to the Pacific Northwest and a little bit East Coast, but like predominantly it's very, to me, Midwest, and it like I connect very like deeply to this and like how I grew up playing soccer and like in the Midwest. And I didn't travel like super far playing club soccer, but we did tournaments in like Indianapolis and St. Louis. which are neighboring states, which makes sense. But it makes sense that Kelsey, who's about 10 years older than me, would have traveled maybe like a little further too, because there were probably less teams 10 years before I was playing, in less tournaments. And now there's a massive amount of tournaments. I'm still looking at these patches.
But like about the what you were saying about like it being super Midwest. There's a line where she talks, and it's the map, and it shows like the places that all have Native American or indigenous people names, and she talks about like the Oyo, the Ohio River, and playing. She's like, oh, all the places that were flat, they put soccer fields, and then they were inevitably flooded, and it's like. It's still to this day, like wherever like I'm coaching, it's like, oh yeah, here no, half this field is flooded, or half of it's mud, or like she talked about like the trains going by in the distance, and it's like that's still a thing. You go and you coach, and you're like, oh yeah, there's the train tracks right there. There's a train going by right now.
Like IIT and
Yeah, or I played at Moraine Valley Community College in. I don't know the native history of that area, but like, right, that's so Midwest that like, the glacier, am I correct?
Yeah,
okay.
glacier.
The glaciers ended like in that area, so it's like flat there too. There's like a lot of trees and like, anyway.
That was one of the fun things when I was in Cincinnati. It was about they called it the Wisconsinite Glacier. And how basically from like Ohio all the way up to Wisconsin, it was just flattened
to the driftless region.
Yeah, by the glacier, and it's like that's why you've got all these random carved out areas that flood, and then you go play soccer on them.
Yeah, and one of the things that she didn't actually detail in this book, and I was definitely wondering about, because I played in West Texas, right? So with the floods, with the muddy fields, and all that, did you guys still play, or did they cancel your games? Because we played in sandstorms, and it was like, yeah, okay, that's the elements. Sandstorm is, you're gonna deal with it.
Rattlesnakes.
The only time we stopped the game was lightning for sure, and then back then it's changed a lot. Back then the lightnings, that especially those summer lightning storms could get pretty vicious back in the West. But yeah, and I was like, it's crazy. Oh, it's 110 degrees out there. Yeah. And we're playing at noon. Yeah.
I mean, that's the Midwest too, right? I know that like clearly the southern cities and states have like these warmer climates, but we have really extreme heat and humidity in the summer, and we all played.
Especially in the
ISU.
southern parts of the Midwest too. It gets brutal.
I think we just had more water breaks, but we were playing.
And there's always the perpetual Midwestern goose poop. Because it's like, oh, when you're not in the field, there are geese all over the field, and that is what you're playing in. It's like, you just...
I have recognized one so far.
Nice.
I have read the Omaha, the Premier League group.
We hate them too.
Yeah, I did recognize that one. I was like, oh, that's right.
One of the saddest U.S. Open Cup moments was Omaha playing against the Fire.
Yeah, that's why I said we hate them too.
That is the only one.
What year was that?
3.
Yeah. Like
she hosts. The story is, and John, maybe you remember this, we lost them. I don't remember the score, but after the
PKs.
After the game, their players kind of taunted our supporters.
They came to the supporter section,
and it was weird because we were just like really bummed that our team lost. So for me, and I'm very passionate, I was like, "F these guys!" Like, why? Like, we go celebrate with your fans that traveled here on a weeknight to be here. And she hosts, who's no longer with the Fire, like came and he pushed one of the players, and that guy was my dude from that moment on. Like such a Chicago moment, and I was just like, that's like a kind of a CJ Brown type moment.
And that was the only thing is I think that was the Rafael Wickier, who's now coaching I think St. Louis, who they'll face in the Open Cup on Wednesday. But yeah, the only main guy he started was Rafael Shihos, and then as it looked like it was going to end in a tie, he slowly subbed in more people like Shabilko and stuff like that. Ended in the tie, went to PKs, Fire lost in PKs. And it was just,
at Soldier Field.
Yeah. And it was like
the pain.
They notified people of tickets like 3 days before the game. So like
that's still a thing.
Yeah,
that's still a thing.
But no, we got more notification but we got more notification for like the St. Louis game that's happening on Wednesday than we did for that one.
I think with Greg here, I know we're straying a little bit from this book, but I think with Greg here, he's put a lot of passion and importance into things that are supposed to be important, like the Brimstone Cup and like the U.S. Open
Right,
Cup.
right.
He came out to Detroit and hung out with those guys a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's right. He was out there. Yeah, that's right.
And that's like a thing that's existed for a long time in MLS, and I think MLS is growing where we don't have that connection with, especially at Soldier Field with the. I almost cursed. I'm glad I did it.
No, I got my hand on the button. It's
Yeah.
all right.
Okay. Anyway, the walls being so high at the stadium, you don't even have these small moments with the team, and just I don't know.
Two
Anyway,
more
MLS.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, okay, so as we're talking about growth in the book, she talks about before the parents were doing everything. They were videotaping. They were the transportation. Later on, they were able to get the colleges because Title IX helped with vans and buses and so forth to get them. Is that still something that we see growing in the youth programs? I'm not involved in the youth programs right now, or is it still very, very parent based? Very like is the money there right now in those youth programs?
What I see is,
But especially the female youth programs.
So I will say the nonprofit I work for, they are doing an event on Saturday for some of the captains, which is like the older kids that help with the younger kids, and they're taking players out to the Stars game. So that's kind of a nice like event that they're doing where they're bringing them out. They've got the bus and all of that, and that's all included with the program. But I will say a lot of the games via like CPS is just like you have the practices where you have the practices, and then it is like, all right, get your kid to the game. Like that's like you got to get to the game if you want to play. And part of coaching with like in the public school system is you are competing with clubs, and I don't see the clubs existing for girls in like youth sports. It's like all the club player. It's all boys. It's all like, oh, I've got club on Saturday. So I don't see that existing right now for girls teams where.
And in Chicago, like she mentioned in the book, where they passed a regulation or a rule, I guess in Ohio, I'm assuming, where either you had to pick, you played club or you played high school. Yeah. Is that something that still exists here today, or you just play?
No, not when I was in high school either. They were separate, unless you potentially there might have been a few women or girls when I was playing, and this is in the 90s, that might have played for like a boys club team instead of like a women's team. But in terms of my experience with youth soccer, which is not, it's different than yours. I'm managing social media. So in terms of like, and I say archiving or like documenting in terms of getting photos to share on social media, I'm getting that from the parents a lot, right? Because I'm not at all the games. So a lot of it is coming either from the coach is sending, or one of the kids' parents is taking the photos and then sending. So in that sense, it's still very much the parents. But this is with boys and girls.
Hey, you got some professional photographers out there then, because I see some of the stuff on the social media. I'm like, these pictures are really good. Like, who's taking these pictures?
Well, with Chicago House.
Yeah.
With FC Stars, it's a lot of just like phone photos or a parents with a good camera, which is either are fine. It's still creating content, and phones have such good cameras now anyway.
Yep.
And then in terms of parents still being involved, and maybe this is like a one-off, but Chicago House has a men and women's semi-pro futsal team, and the coach.
The futsal pictures are good.
Yes. So, yeah, there's a pro photographer that comes. There's somebody, a parent with a good camera. There's a little editing, right? But the coach is one of the parents, and it's not to say that he's just like a dad that's thrown in there. He's qualified, but he's still like involved. And then there's a mom involved, and she has a son, and she's married to the coach, naturally. And her son and daughter both play, both extremely talented, and she does a lot of the administrative management duties and some photo duties. So I know that's not just the women's game, but I still see like the parents' involvement is like pretty heavy.
Was it their inaugural season?
Inaugural season, yes, for the men and women's futsal. Yeah.
And they did really well.
The women's team are champions.
Doing well, yeah.
Yep.
I went to that game. It was in Lansing, Michigan. It was, and yeah, I mean, in terms of if we want to keep on theme with this book, it was really inspiring to see these young women. They're pretty young. They're mostly all high schoolers on the house team. ball out, and they're getting like, yes.
Futsal, actually, let me ask you this. Since
Yeah.
the futsal program at the house is probably one of the better futsal programs I've seen, that I've experienced, seeing. Do you see the modern futsal program being another channel to grow the women's game? Futsal is a little bit different,
Yeah.
different style, harder
Yeah.
on the knees. But do you see that as another like avenue to grow the women's game in the United States?
Yeah, I think any of these playing opportunities, right? Whether it's like, because there's like pro women's indoor now, and those leagues are small. This league was small, it was only 4 teams, but again, you have to start somewhere because you have 4 teams now, and then maybe next year you have 5, or the following year you have 5 or 6. So it's just adding on from there. And one of the teams, I don't know if it was a Grand Rapids team or if my friend just lives in Grand Rapids. She played pickup soccer with our Chicago women's soccer group. She moved back home to Grand Rapids. And she's about 30 years old. So, like, the age group is, like, totally different. So that's, like, really interesting to see. Right here, House has, like, this really young team. And then this other team in the league who didn't do very well has an older team. But it just shows that there's room for all ages. And maybe right, like, in 4 years from now, 5 years from now, there's an older league or a younger league or 2 different levels or, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you had actually just brought up was the archiving of the women's game. The way she put it in this book is they were lucky to find some of these things, especially the stuff that they found in her mom's, what was it, briefcase or
the mom had that box.
The box. It was a box.
Yeah.
And everything fell out when she was up there clearing out the box or clearing out the house. Pictures are not a problem today. They're not an issue. We have them everywhere and we can post them easily. But are we in a situation right now, especially in the women's game, because I feel that it's growing in popularity so much, where the writing behind it isn't really there? Because the picture tells you one thing, and then we only get those 100 letters or the 200 letter space to write what's going on and why this picture is here. Do you think that the archiving situation might be difficult because the literature just isn't there, the writing isn't there?
I've never thought about it like that.
Because pictures we have thousands upon thousands of
Yeah,
pictures.
but like photos too. So the photos they're like accessible but not accessible. Once we like embarrassingly, I have like 45,000 photos and videos on my camera. Can you tell I'm a social media manager? But like once I upload those to like a computer, and once I don't use that computer anymore, like I don't know, I don't have access to them as much. I don't know. I think photos say so much and videos say so much.
But they also, I mean, I think the important thing is the fact that they exist, and you have that space that they create, and for a future generation that would want to come back and be like, hey, I want to research this.
Right.
Like we live in the golden era of media in regards to like everything is documented now. And so all it takes is someone to be motivated and entrepreneurial to go back and be look through the photos, and you start with one person and you go, hey, who's this in this photo? I see you. Who's this?
Connect the
and
dots.
and then you start, and then do you still talk to? Oh, you still talk to them? Oh, you got their email? And so it's that future generations, I think, will have a much easier time of like connecting the dots on a lot of that stuff.
There'll be extra tools that'll probably help them.
Yeah.
And he's right. We do live in a golden era of media, but we don't live in a golden era of funding media.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Speaking of which, you're listening to WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. Continue with your thought. I just had to get that one in.
that was my thought.
That there's not much funding for media.
Just
and
less.
we're
Just
removing
less. And well,
the
you're
funding for
talking
media.
about why there might be less writing in general, and I think it comes down to a bigger question.
Yeah, because the way she was writing about it in this book, and I really felt it too. Like she's going through the picture, and you're like, oh, that's right. And in her, it clicked this memory, right, of when she was playing, of the friends that she had, of the friends that, she went back through her journal and was like, oh, was there a relationship there? Or did we have an actual, or was I making up that relationship while I was there, while I was in it? did we really have that? Or was it empty? Or was it all? Was it empty? I think that because we get the pictures, right? Like I love seeing pictures of Maradona. I love seeing pictures of Hugo Sanchez. You know, right at the cusp of when I was realizing who these players were. But I really have to go back and find the articles of Hugo Sanchez at Real Madrid because I mean.
He lit it up.
There's some people that you can ask today. It was like, you remember who's your favorite historical Real Madrid player? Hugo Sanchez. He played for Real Madrid. Yes,
He's big in Mexico.
Yes, he was huge. He was huge. He was a huge player at
But
Real Madrid.
You said one thing about that really resonated when you were talking about her journal, and I feel like this book is a journal very much. So it gets that feeling. It's very intimate the way that it sort of comes across.
And but it goes back to what you were saying before about funding, you know, that kind of like historical undertaking. This is very much reads to me like you said. It's a labor of love and a self-examination.
It's a book you want to read slowly.
Yeah, but this is her talking about her own experiences, her life, and just kind of like teasing out just kind of everything that's happened to her via soccer. And then I would believe as she was writing it, because she mentions about like the idea of like Title IX. Oh, this influenced all of our lives. This influenced our playing lives. And I think as she was kind of like reviewing the videos that she had got as an adult and looking back on it, and was kind of like, I'm compelled to kind of put all this down visually for myself.
Well, it's like Nicole talks a lot about opportunity. I think that's really what this book is about at the sort of core.
Yeah, I think that we were texting earlier, and I said, I kind of said, like, I didn't even totally think of this book in terms of Title IX. I just thought about, like, how relatable the experience is to me. It's just, like, you know, a few years ahead of me. And so I just feel like any woman my age, and I'm interested in maybe hear, like, women 10, 15, 20 years younger than me, how much they relate to it, too, is just, like, it's so relatable. And I think that the conversation we had at our other book club was more about that because there was more women at the table, and we connected it more to, like, even these notebooks, which is, like, not necessarily even about soccer, but that, like, having these notebooks where you pass with your friend was such a thing that girls in high school did. And that's archival in itself, right? And now we don't have that now. So in terms, not necessarily in terms of literature, but in terms of just like these archival like notes and like, you know, you go back in history and you read letters between poets and things like that, right? We don't have this archival, these notebooks anymore because we're sending 10-word text messages.
Or not even that, just emojis now. Just thumbs up.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Short and sweet.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Like, not that we've ever, God forbid, anybody starts doing this, but you know, we have the administration that we have right now, where you start just looking up, you know, the messages that are sent, you know, about soccer, about the sport. That'd be interesting to see, like, you know, wanting, you know, it's that aspect, and it's something that we don't, because especially in professional sports, both men's and women's, they're so well trained on how to answer questions.
Media training.
They're media trained, and so they'll give you like to thank God, like to thank the other team, they did great, you know, and the answers are there. And I still remember when Pulisic ended up in England, they were like, wow, he's really well trained to answer questions. Like, he didn't answer any questions, so the questions we asked.
And the phenomenal thing is, like, you watch any, like, Greg Berhalter, any like presser kind of thing he does, and he just talks in that monotone, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. He actually said something interesting, but like just the delivery, because like, it's
so nowadays, unless it's Mourinho, you're not going to get anything out of anyone. And even Mourinho will give you I can't say anything because I'll get punished.
You'll get something if it's going pretty bad. You'll start getting some stuff.
I was thinking the same thing in terms of like pressers with Berhalters. I don't know if you all follow, but like every Wednesday. Well, today's Thursday, but usually it's Wednesdays. The Fire do their like, it's on Twitter. I can't say X, but it's on Twitter. And Greg today and Robin Lod, I don't know how to pronounce. And today when I was listening to it, I was just like, oh, they're just like giving these like, you know, like he's not playing all these games, or, you know, and he's used to starting, and, you know, Anyway,
Yeah.
this very professional.
And it's just
Deflection.
Yeah, and I appreciated the responses. They were not like so bland that I was like not like appreciating them. But
But what I'm saying is, like, if we could get a hold of these text messages that players are sending to each other, that would be
group chats, please.
that would be fantastic.
The one really candid podcast that I listened to, the one with Dax McCarty that I can't think of the name of right now. Guys, do you know it?
I can't remember the one with Dax McCarty. One of my favorite players, by the way.
Okay, it's Dax, it's Alan Gordon, and it is another defender that played for the Galaxy. Anyway, I'll look it up. But I feel like they're very candid, and I really appreciate like having that. And before Fabian Herbers and the other German player.
You're testing my knowledge.
Okay, I just like
MLS
appreciate those
players.
like candid stories, right? Instead of these press.
Yeah. Wasn't she host German?
Yeah, it wasn't she host. He's a really talented player with like a really good cross in a corner. He might be in Minnesota now. He played in Miami.
Still playing?
Yeah, he's played a lot of places.
Oh, but it's still playing? Like still?
I believe so. Anyway,
I can't remember.
I'll get back to you.
But I that whole because okay, then that's part of the changing in the times, right? They wrote things down in their notebooks. They wrote letters to each other, and I still remember that in school.
But the video was huge. Like the fact that like there was all the, and one of the parts that I loved was near the very end where she experiences the disconnect because she was like burnt out on football or soccer, and where she's like, wait, who is that? That's not me. Who's that? Oh, I quit. Like I love when
you
she
could
has
feel that hurt.
Yeah, that last like 15 minutes where she's got that disconnect.
And she's like, it's another goalie.
Yeah,
it's not me.
Yeah, and she's talking about her friend who scores like has the brace in the game, like scores the 2 goals, but then the freshman goalie gives up, you know, the game-winning goal.
It's incredibly relatable because I had that moment too, different sport, and I remember like it was a martial arts sport, and I remember that weight class. I was no longer in that weight class for that team, and because I wasn't on that team anymore, and I saw someone else in my weight class, and I was like, oh man, this sucks. This hurts. It hurt.
Yeah.
Like that was like, oh, okay. And then all those good times, you know, because we can always dwell on the bad, right? But all those good times, all the things you learned, all the and one of the things that, and I think is super important in sport is the travel aspect. And I know that the money's expensive for that, and I know that traveling is expensive for sport, but traveling is important. You know, leaving your town to go play at another town, and even if it's just for the weekend, you pick up so much. You learn a lot. And if you have the capability at that point, if the city allows it or if your club allows it, where you do go to like your local museum in between, you know, your 4-hour wait between matches, then it adds even more to that, which is a great aspect. And it's one of the things that I do see some countries do that in their sports, and they put money into it. And that's why you have those programs that grow very well. Spain is a good example, Norway, Germany, and so forth, where they put money into their kids' programs, and it helps. Whereas here, everyone's just fighting for their own, and it's very difficult to bring that money up to be able to do those things. But I see it as a form of education, and I think she was able to show that in this book, where your sport isn't just your sport. It shows you so much more of the world.
But it also speaks to the idea of opportunity and identity. And she was very lucky in regards to, like, not just, as she says, about, like, coming up in the age when she was to be affected by the law and have the opportunity, but also, like, being middle class, being white, like that, those opportunities.
Yeah. Who was it that she said brought that up? Rapinoe, I think, was the one
that was the quote we were talking about before the show.
Yeah.
If you want to jump into, because I
forgot what. I could read the quote, but we were talking about it. It was something I said to John that I didn't, in rereading this book, I didn't remember that part from the last time. And it was just about like the privilege of whiteness, which I think right as a youth, I never realized, and maybe you all didn't realize either. But the quote is, "We were also white. This might seem like stating the obvious, but I honestly think many white people don't realize they are wandering around with a 400-year baked-in advantage. I know I didn't. And so I know absolutely for fact I didn't know that, especially when I was like in high school and college. And that's when I was just like starting to open my eyes to those differences or that privilege.
Yeah. You don't. It's. Yeah. When I read that quote in the book, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Growing up in a border town, you see those contradictions a lot.
And the disparity.
Yeah, you tend to see it quite a bit, and it's like, oh, you don't realize it till you end up at a tournament where the field is covered in grass, and all the lines are immaculate and straight, and then you go back to practice in your sand lot, where there might be a patch of grass if you're lucky, and here comes the sandstorm.
There was a
Scorpions.
There was a meme going around recently, and it was like, oh, if you are like, it was like coaching or playing a team, and the other team shows up and they're carrying their cleats and like plastic bags, and their uniforms don't exactly match 100%. They're like, you're getting smoked. Those kids are gonna smoke you.
And she brought that in, and it was, and that's that part of that travel. You're gonna be shown everything. You're gonna be shown all the aspects.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just stay inside your city, your group, you just play locally. Those two fields you always go to, and you know them by name. You learn how to get there blindfolded eventually. Then you're not. Yeah, sure. You're learning the sport. You're playing the game, but I don't think you're getting the totality of what it can be to be in a sport. And I wish we could put more money into youth sports programs than we do in this country.
And that goes to kind of what you're talking about with travel, is the idea of like just logistically, because you can have a whole bunch of travel like in the Midwest, and you're still in the Midwest. You're going to see differences, but still a lot of the same. Whereas travel in Europe, you drive for 4 hours, you're 2 countries away now.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the difference is finding. There's no good organization to manage like the youth sports and all of that development for boys or girls. It's just. Yeah, it's multi-state, so unwieldy, so spread apart, that trying to get a massive organization like that to kind of like have 1 or 2 leaders, like, oh, we're gonna run this thing. It's like, yeah. Whereas in Europe, it's easier. It's like, all right, we're gonna run this, and we have this amount of.
Clairefontaine.
Yeah, we have these
centralized.
Yeah,
academy.
and the travel is like, okay, we're gonna go to this country, and it's 2.5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours at most. You're like, okay, cool. So I think that's part of the difference is the travel logistics, but also just kind of like having a major organization to unify everything, and we don't have that because it's so individualized, so regionalized, and there's nothing to pull all of the organizations together, and then you get the divisions.
And do you all think that it's sports based? Because okay, I'm a total nerd. I'm a total geek. And so I was just attached to this entire Artemis space program that just occurred. That is occurring, Artemis 2, and how many women we saw involved in this. And I do remember, in my younger ages, that the academy side of it, the science side of it, and so forth, there was a lot more money invested in the women's side of that than there was in the boys. Is that something that's still occurring in the educational system now? Because that entire, I don't know if you guys saw this. I know I'm geeking out right now, but there was a lot of women, a lot of women that were a part of, the NASA side of it, of course, the SpaceX side of it, which that's a whole other thing. Part of being the program itself, part of developing the programs, part of doing all the math and sciences for the programs. So that money was invested in that, and why is it not invested on the sports side also? And that's kind of, and I know it's different, it's away from the book, but is that something that you still see? Because we see the science programs that are out there right now, especially the travel ones.
I think part of it's opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's built in a lot, I think. Yeah. I mean that's just kind of my perspective, but I'm sure.
And along with like what you see from the Chicago House, is it still one of those, or any other programs? Is it still? It seems like Chicago House has it really well covered on both sides, on men's and women's. So that's not an issue that I've seen there. What about the futsal program though? Because I did see that the boys did go out and play. They'd had their own tournament and not performed as well, but I didn't see that they had traveled as far. Or traveled away, and maybe I just didn't see it.
Yeah, they both traveled. Most of the games were in Michigan.
Okay.
I think out.
They were in Michigan, yeah.
I think for the women, I mean, only 4 teams for women, so only House was only women in the Chicagoland area. For men, I think most of the games were in Michigan as well. I don't think they had any competitors in the Chicagoland area, but I could be wrong. If there were, it was small. So they were traveling a lot. Both teams to Michigan. Almost every weekend, whether it was one team or the other.
And in the league that House is in, do you see the growth in the youth programs the same through all the other clubs, or is it just the House that's ahead a little bit here on this?
In terms of like girls and boys?
Yeah, the development of the youth program, because you seem to have a very, very strong youth program there. So that's why I'm just asking. And I know it's away from the book and then the topic, but I'm just interested in because it seems like a really good program.
I'm not very involved in the youth program at all.
Okay.
And I don't really do any of the social media for them. But we have conversations about them. And as far as I know, there was like a really good percentage shared this week. We had an advisory board meeting on Tuesday night. And I don't remember what the percentage is, but the percentage of like returning players to try out for House Youth Academy was like very high, like I think in the 90 percentile range.
Oh, wow.
And don't quote me on that, but that's what I recall off the top of my head. And I don't know what that is normally, but they said it was really high, and it's higher in the Batavia area than the Plainfield area, and that's all I really know right now. And with my new job with FC Stars, I'm learning and growing, and I'm happy to report back when I'm learning more. But it's also cool to see like different perspective, because that's like a north side team.
Yep.
And then House, it's just different demographics, right? So it will be interesting to learn and grow and see how things compare.
And the House are expanding a lot of their youth stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, predominantly Batavia is like, they have the clubhouse now, which is like their futsal space to play in. And yeah, I wish I could say more. If you want to have somebody on.
No.
If you
just wondering. No,
yeah.
we'll definitely bring someone on.
I'll help recruit for you.
And we'll figure it out. I'm very interested. I personally am very interested in futsal programs because I love futsal.
It was, I mean, the women's team, the home court stadium, wherever they play, Lake Barrington, maybe they play far away. So I didn't get to a home game, but like I said, I went to the final championship match of the women just because I'd been texting with House's now former GM Brian and Adriana, the woman, the mom of one of the players, and so always like getting photos to post on social media, and so I developed this relationship and friendship, and I'd say, hey, I'm unable to post today because I just can't, whatever. We were communicating, and then I got attached, and I formed a relationship, and I'm watching these girls and the guys team too on YouTube, and it's like fun and exciting. You feel like you know them, and you feel like you know their personality. And I'm texting one of their moms, so there's this like extra emotion involved in that. So my mom and I actually went to Lansing to watch the final. Nice. And again, I know we're getting away from the book, but in support of in support of the women's game, we're tying this in. And so it was just like so fun, and a lot of their moms were there. And actually, I think this is kind of, it ties me into this, is that after they won, we went out to eat after. So it was a few players, the coaches, like a couple moms, and I'm at a table with my mom, one of the players' moms, and then the like team mom, the admin type woman. And I find out the mom sitting across from me is that I played club soccer with her sister.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, and that's what this book reminds me of, is like right, these like, it's all grassroots, and it's all like Jenny, her name was Jenny, and I played, and like we were building the game then, and now her niece is playing, and right, it's again like the end of this book, especially we're all in the same team, and we're all building like in our own generation or decade or.
Yep.
love
Well,
how
it was
she
it was
added
was
that
it Wambach? It was
Yeah,
Wambach.
there was
right?
a beautiful
Abby
moment
Wambach
with
yeah.
Abby Wambach where she's like, she saw the name and she's like, wait a minute, is that? Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It was, and I didn't know that Abby Wambach was also playing on boys teams because she, like there wasn't the girls team available.
That's how she was introduced.
Yeah, so she had to like play on some of the boys teams as well. So I was like, okay, which I thought, well, but if you already had that, the Cardinal. So I did have that question, and I was like, well, how did that occur? Because it seems like the Cardinals program, and I don't know much about the Cardinals because, again, I'd never heard much about Ohio teams.
Yeah.
How big is that? Because it's like it sounds very generational, and most of the teams that I was related to weren't really generational. As soon as the father or the brother that was coaching moved away, or you had that one coach that the group brought money in to pay, usually from England or Scotland.
Yeah.
They would leave or they would retire or they were already older. Then that club ended. It was done. So I didn't know that they had this much of a generational pool.
I think it goes back to the idea of creating institutions that are intended to go on rather than just like a money-making enterprise, and like creating those institutions that give opportunities to encourage the game and make the game long-lasting. And the Cardinals, I haven't done any research on it, but like you said, multi-generational, and it's becoming, going back to the 80s, institutional of like extending the game and that beautiful idea she has at the end about like we are all teammates. We're all kind of intertwined together, and I think part of it is looking at those institutions that stand the test of time beyond the coaching changes or leadership changes and that kind of thing, of like what will encourage the game for that community. And I think that's something that is kind of lost in the United States in regards to growing the game in an organic way.
Because we're all franchises.
We're all franchises.
But when you say institutions, too, I think of a club. So you're building a club, and I think about a conversation I with Drew, I don't know, a few months ago about like you found a book about the Green and White club, and like they still exist. Like some of our clubs in the Chicagoland area and beyond are still existing and like big and like and I know some, like I grew up playing for Chicago Magic and that's kind of faded over time, but a lot of the like soccers exist, but I don't know if soccers exist in terms of like a club feeling where I'm trying to think what's the Croatian like club team in the Chicagoland area.
The one in Milwaukee is the Croatian Eagles, but
the Bavarians is maybe a good example in Milwaukee.
Is that
it's
the
like
one
more a
next
club.
to the Old Town Music? There's the Bavarian.
Is it Zarnia? Is the Croatian?
Yeah, Zarnia. Yeah, like right there's like that.
Yep.
But that's also like the old boys club, so it doesn't include women.
Right,
but how? Yeah.
Well, that's one of the questions. Yeah, I mean that's the way I see it. You're also no longer dealing with this club was formed by this family or this group or these group of friends that got together and started a team, because now you have you have MLS getting involved, starting huge clubs. And I don't know. I've always questioned the talent pool that they're creating, simply because of the massive amounts of people that they coach. That individualized attention seems to be gone in that aspect. And then like one of the things that's happening in youth hockey right now, you have like these. I'm assuming they're like big private equity, like big money companies coming in, buying up leagues and be like, either you play for us or you don't play because we're getting rid of all the other leagues. They're all gone, or we're swallowing them, buying them out. By the way, to play for us is going to be 4 times, 5 times more than it was previously. And I don't, since I'm not attached, is that one of the issues that's occurring now in the youth programs here in Chicago? I know that in West Texas, yeah, for sure. You'll play for your high school, you'll play for your middle school if they have the program. If you're still at a school district that has sports and music and arts, or you'll play for one of the clubs that you have to pay for. Or you still have AYSO and YMCA and so forth, but you're not going to get this college scholarship. You're not going to go pro out of the YMCA program, if that's what you're even looking to do. So is that one of the issues now that you're seeing right now here in Chicago, or not?
I mean, I think on a larger level there is a lack of opportunity to play cheaply for love of the game at all levels. Via like
in America.
Yeah, because it is a sport that takes space, but it's very hard to organize cheaply large groups of people, and that for whatever reason that's just the nature of the beast here. Like trying to organize pickup games and have the space to have pickup games. Summer and spring make it so much easier because we are blessed with the lovely park district, but when it's fall and winter, those games so much harder to do when you want to do anything indoor or futsal.
Yeah, space is expensive.
Yep.
And there's a lot of competition for the space.
Yeah, that's an issue too.
In the cities.
Or what kind of space, right? Like renting a gym with like a hardwood gym floor is going to be easier, cheaper than something with turf.
Yep.
I mean, I've even just seen the evolution of what's the national one that's taken over the indoor? SoFi?
SoFi.
Yeah.
CJ Brown's tournament Saturday there.
Because it was like kids used to play at it was Chi-Town football in Pilsen there, and now it's SoFi. And then the other one that was on Ashland.
In Persian, 39th.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Sorry, it makes me so angry.
We're started.
Yeah.
It is like, I know like I'm the white woman in Pilsen, and to be fair, my mom's side of the family didn't immigrate to Pilsen from Poland. And I've lived there 19 years, so I consider myself a community member. And I've played there for a really long time at Chi-Town. And, like, what a beautiful space and cultural space for, like, the Mexican community there. And even, like, I played on a Croatian women's team there. And in a mural, they had, like, one of the people painted was, like, one of the Croatian women players because they were, like, such a staple in that community, too. So that was, like, cool to see. And SoFi just... right? They put in more fields, smaller fields because you're going to make more money. They paint over everything. And sure, aesthetically, it's like nice in the sense that it's like clean and designed, like whatever, minimally. But like all the history and culture just like wiped away. Like
it becomes very aseptic.
Oh my gosh. And yeah.
Very corporate, aseptic.
I'm still mad. And yeah. And yeah, for Pershing too. And I have only been to Pershing actually once since it happened, but those are both places I've played for a really long time, and just like I'm angry.
No, I feel you. We're gonna get to that anger as soon as we return from this break. You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC, and we will be back shortly.
This is Sadie Woods, and I'm bringing you Gridlock Sound Lab, Rush Hour Radio featuring house, Afro-Latin rhythms, world beat, disco, funk, soul, electro, and indie dance music. Gridlock Sound Lab, first and third Fridays at 4, only on 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio.
There's nothing like the soothing sounds of a coffee shop. I'm your pal Dud Lawson of the Chicago Printers Guild, here to invite all to join us on the second Wednesday of every month at 6 p.m. for the Chicago Printers Guild Halftone Radio Super Show. Every month we'll bring in one of your favorite Chicago printmakers to share the music they've been playing in the studio. You should tune in, it'll be a good time. The Chicago Printers Guild Halftone Radio Super Show.
You are listening to Lumpen Radio, supported by Mars Community Brewing, maker of the Mars Elixirs. Mars Elixirs are infused with Midwestern hemp. Mars Elixirs are available throughout Chicagoland. More information is available at drinkmars.com. That's drinkmarz.com. Hi, I'm the voice of God at Lumpen Radio. Are you a business owner looking to promote? Or are you a loyal listener who wants to sponsor your favorite show? Lumpen Radio offers a wide range of sponsorship and underwriting. Visit lumpenradio.com/support for more information on our tax-deductible sponsorships. Support the community radio of the future.
You're listening to WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You are listening to Lumpen FC. We are currently covering The Keeper, Soccer, Me, and the Law That Changed Women's Lives by Kelsey Everick. It has been a wonderful conversation. One of the things I did want to cover is that aspect, especially at the end of the book, where, you know, and I think everyone in this room has probably already dealt with some of those situations where, like, oh, okay, I am older, I have lived life. This was a very, very important aspect of my life, and it formed kind of a foundation of who I am and how I deal with people, how I work with people, how I am as an individual, how I socialize, and all the things that I learned along the way, that the sport or the one thing that you love is always with you. What part did you think that you related to the most? Since everyone here has done soccer in one way or the other, that you related to the most from what she said, looking back on those perspectives or looking back on how it formed you and where you are today. I mean, if I start, for me, it's community-based. Like, I was an okay soccer player. I was all right. I mean, I would say average. But the way I see communities, the way I see friendships, the way I see, it absolutely helped me solidify, along with other sports and so forth, because I did a lot of sports. I played a lot of sports. But soccer was one of the ones where, especially when it came to that situation where you're like realizing, oh, not everyone's getting the same benefits from this. Because I played with a lot of Mexican players. I played with Juarez teams in El Paso, but I did have the aspect where I was going to a school that was a privileged school at the same time. But I also dealt in the era we were at that age where it was football, American football first, and then the soccer teams, like, you were used as, you know, like I've said before, you were used as, you know, conditioning for the American football team, or as an aspect of, like, we'll let you play, you know, Sunday for 2 hours, but the rest of the time it's football and baseball. Like, all right. But the money aspect, when you're looking at the teams, especially that were in Juarez, and some of the teams that did not have the capability to travel from El Paso, as compared to what at that time, especially in the private school sectors, those teams had money, and they were playing basically for one aspect, which is basically get that scholarship to college, right? If you had a college at that time that had a scholarship program. And it's one of the things where I can safely say that, and I can say that out loud, because I know a lot of people from West Texas will be like, that's not true. But this is what my friends told me. Yeah. This is what the parents were talking about in the kitchen. Like, no, you have to go to soccer practice because we need to make sure you get your days in, because you have to fill out your application form to X university. It's like, oh, can we do that? Like, is that what thing? Like,
it's very interesting. You were talking about earlier about the idea of, like, travel and seeing the differences, because I think that was for me also seeing, being, like, sort of middle class and going, you would go to some of those suburban schools and you'd be like, wait, this is where they practice? This is where they holy, like, they have, and you're like, oh, hey, you guys can warm up at gym F. And you're like, wait, like the letter F? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, wait, that implies you have A, B, C, D, E. And they're like, yeah, and we have G, H, I, J, K, L, M. And you're like, wait, you have that many gyms? Yeah. Yours is just the 200-meter. Don't mind the pole vaulters. Do you have pole vaulting? Yeah. What do you know? And, like, that was the other extreme of, you see these incredibly huge schools, these, immaculate.
Well,
fields.
one of the biggest shocks that I had was going from El Paso. We were going to play in a tournament in Dallas, right? El Paso, Dallas, different money aspects, especially in certain parts of the part of Dallas that we went to. The stadium was, of course, a Texas high school football stadium. I'm not going to say the high school. Seated like 20 to 30,000 people.
Wild.
And when I walked into the stadium, I was like, this is a soccer stadium? I was like, no, it's a football stadium.
Of course.
I was like, oh, you have this many people show up to a football game? Yeah, every Friday, buddy. Like, wow. That's insane.
It's like Friday Night Lights.
Yeah,
you
it was
know?
Friday
They're
Night
just,
Lights.
that's what
it.
they're living. That's their life.
Absolutely insane. And then I still remember, like, one of the kids said it in Spanish, they're like, why is the field so small? We're like, oh, the field is small. We're used to playing in a much larger field. But there is that big difference, it's there. Yeah.
I know you just asked like what part we relate to the most.
Mhm.
So I really relate to like all of this like immensely. So one part I'm thinking of is just like the going into high school and all of a sudden there's boys and there's this pressure to be like super girly and like she talks about the homecoming court and stuff like that. But I don't know if there's this a part I relate to more than others, but at the end she talks about finding her new team. I don't know what the word she used. It might have been community, finding her new community after like she's done playing and like so I feel like that's something I'm going through like right now, or I have been for like 20 years, right? Is like continuing to find that community, especially not being with like a team anymore. I am with a team, but it's still like constantly like evolving and like finding that space and finding those people, especially those people that feel similarly. Some of the players I play with, last night we were talking about this book the last couple of weeks and just like all feeling the same about like evolution and like of opportunities for women and then the lack thereof. Like we're the same place, we've evolved, but we're also at the same place. I feel like there's one other point. She also quit both her teams. And maybe this is not relatable. I did.
back.
Yeah. So So I went to school. I didn't play. Then I played again, and then I stopped playing, and then I played. But like 10 years, or women in general, but 10 years before me, which was Kelsey, there weren't opportunities after college. So it was like very much like this is it. So I think that's like relatable too. Is that when I stopped playing in college, I was like,
missing it.
I'm done because there weren't as many opportunities for women to play. So sorry, I know I just gave like a few examples of things I could relate to, but
That's good. Yeah.
I think at least now there are more opportunities for like adult women to play that's outside of being like a professional, right? Like one of the house players just graduated from college and she's unable to play for house right now because she's trying to find ways to make an income to survive and live like we all are trying to do. And I messaged her a little bit and I'm going to follow up again, but I want to just remind her to keep playing, even if that's at our pickup, which will be really boring for her if it's in some co-ed league or whatever, but just to remember to just keep running around, even if it's not at that house level.
Yeah. No, yeah, keep playing. Always keep playing.
Yeah.
Till you can't. It's one of the things that I definitely miss is playing soccer. And it gets to the point, where you're so... Oh, I did it again. I do that. Gotta move the mouse every week. You get to that point where it's like, I haven't played soccer in... Man, it would probably be at this point probably 10 to 15 years, right around there.
No.
Yeah, it's bad. It's super bad. And here's the thing: so that you get to a point, and I'm getting old, right? But you get to that point where like, okay, let's go play. And 5 minutes into it, I'm like, okay, guys, I'm gonna go over there and throw up in the trash can. I'll be back in a minute. Because it's not like running on the treadmill. It's not like going out for a jog, and all of a sudden you're chasing the ball. And man, and that kind of gets you like, can I get back into this? Like, can I get back
Adrian,
into this?
you need
like,
to find a wall.
Yeah,
I need to find a wall.
Ball on
Absolutely.
wall.
Because I do that a lot just to like get touches in or just because of my age, and like I don't like running. Who likes running? But yeah, real talk. Sorry, I'm
absolutely,
encouraging you to find a wall.
I mean,
I just
like,
try to juggle.
that's
something, right?
That's one of the things.
Get the touches.
Why,
Big part.
to be completely selfish and honest, is why I got back into coaching was just the opportunity to kick the ball around, and the opportunity presented it to me post pandemic, and it was like, oh hey, this coach is gone. Do you want to? You had expressed interest before. I'm like, yes, I'll be all over it. And it was me and 2 other coaches, and during like. In the midst of it, I will complain and grumble and be like, my feet hurt, my knees hurt, this hurts. But then, like in the fall, for example, it'll be September through basically Thanksgiving. And then December, January, you physically kind of recover. And then by like February, I'm like, I miss it again. I want to go kick a ball around.
But if you stop playing, it's so much harder. Like those take
To
those
get
few
back
months
in
off.
it,
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like now I'm back in it, and I was like running just today, just like running. I had a 3-on-2 drill, and I'm standing behind the net, and I'm running and shagging the balls and kicking them back over, and just like doing that was like 15 minutes, and I'm like, okay, go take a water break. You know.
Yeah. And, because I was watching we were waiting for the bus to go to Cincinnati. And the guys were out there playing on the parking lot because the bus was late. And I was like, they weren't exceptional, right? They weren't exceptional. They were good players. They had their skill sets. I was like, I don't even think I could. I would probably blow out an ankle, blow out a knee, but playing on a parking lot, you know.
But and to give a shout out to the running club, part of that is
the running club is getting back into it.
Just building everything back up and getting used to that activity and slowly,
And
step by step.
Do you think that, and now at this point, I know she's a professor now. She got her PhD, and I know that she might still be coaching. I don't know if she still is coaching. What was it? Her daughter's teams. Do you think she's probably still out there just playing? Still doing?
It didn't. I thought it didn't sound like she is.
Yeah.
But Kelsey's been very engaging on social media.
Yeah,
So
I saw that
think,
she was I think I saw her on one of the Instagram posts.
Yeah.
Like,
So maybe we should encourage her to get out there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you do it, I will do. And one of so any other of the relatable aspects there, especially as we're all getting older and dealing with the I guess the older aspects of what it is, and what she was saying there was like, oh, this was something that weighed heavily on my life the entire time, or was very important to my life the entire time. To me, soccer was always there. Like it was always on TV, it was always in the background, and we didn't really grow up in a house that's. We watched a lot of NFL. It was a lot of NFL, a lot of basketball. But soccer was always on. It was always there.
It sounds like she found specifically something else. And is it her writing?
She
at
found
the very
writing,
end.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's like what she's talking about. So
And
like for me, I never like soccer has just been like the mainstay. But I think, and relatable even for her, right? She's just she needed to have a passion. Which I think is hugely important for any individual. But a lot of people don't have passions. And so she just took her passion from sport to writing.
And art,
and she's lucky because some people might like have that one passion when they're younger and maybe not find one later on, or
because it's one of the things that she mentioned. Like she questioned whether she didn't try other things because she was playing, because she was so dedicated to the game. But it seems especially there at the end where she, and this is just the way I read it, where she's kind of caught in the middle. Like she loves the sport, she loves everything that he gave her, she loves everything that she went through, and then she loves where she is at the moment and where she is now. But it seems like there was a wanting and a need to go to pick one, I guess.
Well, maybe it was part of the journey of like sort of evolution. I think that's one of the things that really resonated with me, at least the last part of it, where she talks about a part with her hands, and she's like, these are the hands that.
Yeah,
literally-
the hands.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then these are the hands that'll tell your story. So that's the part. And I don't know. I mean, I'll never have this experience that she had, but I certainly that resonated a lot.
It-
You know,
she-
and it's
she says
the artistic sort of desire for that. You know, that hit me.
she
for
talks
sure.
about like, and now what if I could address that old self? If I could read her teenage goalkeeper palms, what would I tell her? I would say, look at these hands, girl. They will save goals. They will raise your daughter. They will write your story.
They write your stories.
Yeah. And it's that for me a huge part of this what struck me was and I mentioned it very very much at the beginning is the layering of identity and the different ways you exist to the world and to other people. And one of the like more striking moments was when she's with her daughter and she's like, the daughter's like, oh, I've been looking for you. You know, I've played on this field. She did know. I like to remind her of evidence that I existed before her. And like that idea of like, yeah, you know me in the role of as mom, as parent, but I had this life before you. And it's that interesting, like how you present to the world and how soccer was one part of her identity. And then she discovered, you know, she had this love for literature and I love all of the quotes in here from, you know, Nabokov, Camus,
Nabokov, yeah.
and we didn't even get into like the stuff about the concept of the goalie and like what the keeper is and how she took that metaphor later on in the book to be like, my mom was a keeper. She was the keeper of memories and what are you saving?
It's a deep book, man.
Yeah, I just wrote down while you were talking, she talks about being a goalkeeper and how isolating that is. And in my list of words, I don't know which one I want to talk about first. Can I read my list of words
Absolutely,
that I wrote down? And then it's specifically isolation in terms of what I'm doing now. But these are the words I wrote down. And the one that like hits me the most is the first word I wrote down is nostalgia. So nostalgia, friendship, creativity, evolution, Midwest, which I mentioned earlier, isolation, youth, empowerment, archiving, reminiscing, escape, feminism, equality, relatable, adolescence, and 99ers. And there could have been like a million other words, but those were like some, as I was rereading, that I wrote down. But one, she talked about being like isolated in the goal as like a goalkeeper. And this is not exactly the same, but I took that word in like that moment that she's talking about it, but it's really isolating to be a leader of a community. And I go into leading Chicago women's soccer like authentically and like knowing I'm not going to be perfect and I'm showing up in my highs and my lows. But it is like a really isolating feeling too. Like, so both soccer related, both a little bit different, but like I took, I resonated with that moment. I also played goalie for a little while. And I think that's part of, right, I played with boys and then all of a sudden I was on a girls team when I was young. But because I knew the game the best, they're like, oh, put her in goal because. So anyway, that was.
Were you verbal? That's the key thing for a goalie.
Yeah, to be
I was pretty shy young girl, but I think I started getting more vocal. People joke that with me that they're like, you were shy. I'm like, I didn't start being loud or opinionated until I started playing co-ed soccer. And I started being around the fire community about 20 years ago because it's so male dominated that I was angry and frustrated. So I'm not shy anymore, but.
And it's gotten better, the community.
Tell us your insight.
I think the fire community has less women right now than in like 6 years ago. So that's a conversation for another
room
time.
for improvement.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have that conversation next time. Absolutely. One of the things that also, was because I started as a keeper also. So I still remember, like, and it's early on in the book, you know, like the W, form the W, and the coach was telling it. I was like, oh, I remember that lesson. I remember that lesson. And how you're supposed to move for this and how you're supposed to cover that. It's like, oh, wow.
Cut the angle here.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the no man's land. This is where you come out. This is where you don't ever come out. Yeah.
Wow, it's different now. Because now you play up midfield. Now you're a midfielder sometimes. And that's one of the ones that definitely, the W, I was like, oh. And then talking about the introvert, the Hope Solo part, where Hope Solo like, oh, you were like, yeah, you're isolated. You were an introvert, and that's why you just don't.
But I love how she had this positive of like, I got really good at finding 4-leaf clovers.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm really good at finding them here because I'm so bored. Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, she was on such a talented team.
yeah, sure. Yeah, because they were always playing up at the top. Yeah.
The one of the things in regards like the nostalgia aspect and that kind of resonates, and I think I may have talked about this before, is the idea of like when you play any kind of physical thing, and as you get older, like I talk to people that are like, oh, I've taken up running like in my 30s, or I've taken up running in my 40s, and you have that like, oh, cool, good for you, but like for me, it's harder as a runner now, or harder as an athlete, because you're like, I remember when I used to be able to fly, and that's part of the like the difficulty here is of like, you remember when it was easy, or at least easier, and that's so much of like the nostalgia of like playing and all that kind of stuff. And one thing I try to be mindful coaching kids now, like one of the players that the boys from the fall, came to me today and he's like, man, my back hurts. I'm like, you're too young for that. I'm like, I'm like, what are you, 13? I'm like, where's your back hurt? And he's like, right here. I'm like, okay, do this stretch. I'm like, I gave him like 3 different stretches. I'm like, listen, I'm like, all that stuff. But I'm like, all that stuff that we do, like the stretching and all that you guys don't take serious. And I'm like,
you will.
I'm like, that stuff that will serve you. I'm like,
seriously.
I'm like, you think it's a joke now because you guys are made of rubber bands. But like, as you get older, you're going to be like, this stretch feels so good. And I'm like, slow down your count. Take it. You know what? We're not counting down. We're counting to 15 because you guys count too fast. Like, just, take your time and, feel it. Do the dynamic stretching. Like, and I'm like, you'll find out. You'll find out. And yeah. And so part of it, it's like, I hope in some way, like that advice will go on. And I think a big part of the book is just, it's made me incredibly mindful of in the intent of being an ally, of like creating that space and giving them time to learn the game and love the game, because that's the whole thing is like, which I think the U.S. does a bad job of, is like, even she talks about, the burning out and the quitting of like, just enjoy the game. Like, you don't need to kill yourself playing it. Just enjoy the game for what it is. Yeah.
It is a game. Have fun.
Yeah, and a similar note is me being there playing, right? There's a handful of us that are in our 40s, a little bit more in their 30s. So I'm hoping that those women, other women who are playing, like, realize that they can keep playing, and we might not be playing like how we did in our 20s, but it's still possible, and we could still be thankful for it. We could still be moving our bodies, and
it's a blessing.
Yeah, and enjoying something.
Be able to do it.
Yeah, enjoying something that we love. And yeah, it's taken a little bit of a mindset to be like, okay, I'm not here anymore, but I'm really appreciative of where I am right now.
You have to have fun with it. And I had said that about, there was a Champions League game. I think it was Liverpool. And then they played really well. They played one of the games really well. And I was like,
not this year, unfortunately.
No, they did. They
played
this one game. They played.
It must have been early stages.
And we were, we were at the brewery working, and Sebastian was like, "Why are they playing?" I was like, "Because it looks like they're having fun." Yeah, I haven't seen them have fun in a while, but it looks like they're having fun.
Even like the Fire, in comparison to past years, it looks like they're having more fun, and they're playing. It's a lot of things, but I think that's definitely part of it.
Yeah. We are. Because is there anything that you guys would like to say about the book before we finish up? We do have a couple of minutes. No.
I'll just say, if you have the opportunity, please come out, talk about the book with us on Sunday at Mars, 11 a.m. We'll have our in-person talk. And to get ahead of ourselves, to promote the next book after that will be Red Card, how the U.S. And I'm not a fan of the subtitle on that, about how the U.S. blew the whistle. Because it makes it too U.S.-centric.
How the U.S. blew the whistle on the world's biggest sports scandal, and we're a part of it.
Yeah,
like, how's that?
Yeah. So, but
themselves,
and
I believe
had a big hand in it.
Ken Bessinger. It's actually really fast moving. There's so many people involved in the FIFA takedown, but it is ripe.
or rebuild.
Yeah, it is ripe for discussion of our current World Cup, and will lend itself to, tales of corruption and all.
Which is
that
going to be
kinda
interesting,
jazz.
and we'll bring in Jamie Trecker on that because he had an inside aspect to that. Nicole, I want to thank you so much for showing up, talking to us about The Keeper, Soccer, Me, and the Law That Changed Women's Lives by Kelsey Everett. This was a fun book. I recommend it. You can read it quickly. It took me 2 hours to read it. Or you can read it slowly.
Take
and
your
definitely
time.
read
Yeah,
it slowly.
beautiful.
Read it
We didn't even
slowly.
talk about the artwork. And
Yeah,
how
there
much
was
I
the
love
Yeah.
artwork
Beautiful
is
book.
amazing.
Yeah, but thank you, as always.
Thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it every time you're here. It is a fantastic time. Once again, you're listening to WLPN LP Chicago, 105.5 FM, Lumpen Radio. You're listening to Lumpen FC. I am right up against it, so I will say it very quickly. If you want to get in contact with us, reach us at Barra Brava Brewing Co. on Instagram or 3160 Firm on Instagram as well. You can reach out to us on email at lumpenfc lumpenfcradio@gmail.com. We do have a what would basically be the World's Game coming to us here in June and July, and Barra Brava will be doing wonderful festivals for that. We'll be putting a lot of things together, so please follow us, Barra Brava Brewing Co. Once again, you're listening to WLPLP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpen Radio. You've been listening to Lumpen FC, and you all have a great night.